Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Veteran Nation. We are live this week. TC, how you doing?
Well, I'm just wanted to make sure we were live because I was waiting for you to do the intro. Are you still wrapped up with the Council of Colonels, or
Yep, we all wrapped up. We're live. We're going.
are you sure? Because you seem to be over there still instead of doing our intro.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, all right. This is what happens when we take a couple of weeks off. So,
Gotta break that rust.
uh, well, I had a birthday for somebody last week, and there was an electrical storm moving through, and I didn't want to be sitting here with these cans on my head. Look, a little bit of electricity last week, and look what it did to my face. I look like
You're
Juan.
you're all cleaned up. Wow, this is gonna be a special episode. A very, as they used to say on NBC, a very special episode. Whenever they would do a serious topic, it's a very special episode. And then you see Arnold from Different Strokes get molested by Dudley, the bike shop owner.
You just that just out of nowhere with stuff.
I've got tons of pop culture references just bobbling around in the brain.
And this is why we can't have nice things.
But yeah, it was good that we took that week. We'll just tease a little bit to the people out there. We did a couple interviews this weekend of some veterans that'll be going out in the next couple weeks, and they're really special. I was so honored to talk to these gentlemen.
It was it was amazing to hear these guys who literally put so much on the line, which is so true of the United States military in pretty much every conflict. I mean, I don't want to people who have lived through a peacetime scenario, been in the military during a peacetime scenario, um, don't don't grasp it. But what these guys went through in what should have been ostensibly a peacetime scenario for them, and what they've continued to have to fight and battle for, and to gain any kind of legitimacy, has been it's been very powerful to me. I was well aware of this, the story. But anyway, go ahead, Skipper.
Oh no, that's
I'm off my game tonight. I'm just
that talking with those gentlemen. I don't know how you were as a kid, but for me, during the '80s, almost every if you did a war movie in the '80s, it was going to be about Vietnam or Vietnam era stuff. That was just the time. Everyone wanted to tell that story. So as a kid, that's what I knew. And those gentlemen, they were my heroes growing up. Like, I looked up to people like them. And, everyone who served during that time. And I'm glad that, you know, I now have a platform and you have a platform and we can fight for them and get them, so much of the things that they've been wanting for years. These were guys who did not, were not treated with dignity. And, we're, people like us are doing what we can to try to wrong, or try to undo that wrong, to undo that injustice. So I'm really excited for the interviews to come out. They're probably going to come out in segments for the fans of the show. So keep an eye open over the next
not
couple weeks.
probably. They are. It's not a probably. They will be coming.
We talked
Like,
to them for a
I
long
know
time.
I know our fan base, and we push the limits with them sometimes. So I can't imagine that any of them would be able to handle it. It was almost. I mean, even with the tail end, cutting the tail end off, it's still going to be over 2 hours and 15 minutes. So yeah, I'm working on trying to figure out the best way to break it up right now. So
But I do want to get on to some of the things that we're talking about today. I Right now I've got the show tagged as a newer woke military. Accurate.
it's the military I've been warning people about for the last couple of years, but especially over the last year. Everybody, you didn't, when you and I first became aware of each other, and I, had you on to talk about it, you knew what I was saying, and you saw it
Okay.
coming. I'm sure Juan saw it coming. I'm sure the other colonels saw it coming, but it's exponentially accelerated. And well, there's just so much to talk about, from censoring and censoring retired military officers,
For
generals,
something that's
flag,
not even illegal. Like,
right. And
so,
they're reducing the pay of active duty and National Guard and reservists
yep.
for refusing to take the jab. Anyway, so Juan's got several stories, and there's so many I could be sharing, but I can't remember if we send the one about the pay reduction over to Juan.
I did not have that one. I had the one about the how civilian they're getting fired
Can
for
you
working on
find
job
Juan?
sites.
Can you find that, because I think that's a really good one. Um, United States military reduces pay of service members who refuse the jab.
Uh, and as we before we get or to preface the first story that we're going to get into, um, I just want to say that when you're a military member, you are not allowed to criticize your chain of command. You just don't do it. That includes the president. That includes the secretary of defense, the vice president. They're all in your chain of command. You learn. I can't criticize them, at least publicly. You can have your private thoughts in privacy of your own home, but uh, this first story is a retired three-star general who he criticized Jill Biden, who is not the president; she is the first lady, and it was a she had tweeted something
Well, it
about
wasn't even a criticism; it was just a joke.
yeah, yeah. And she had tweeted out, for nearly 50 years, women have had the right to make our own decisions about our bodies. Today, that right was stolen. And he very sarcastically replied with, glad to see you finally know what a woman is. Which is hilarious.
It's
Uh,
it's hilarious.
yeah. And he has been officially censured now over that comment. Now, the thing is, she's not in the chain of command. You, you do not salute the first lady unless the president is standing by her side. She holds no rank, no position, nothing official. How do you censure a three-star?
Well, and they suspended him
Yeah.
because he was in contract. So they suspended him. So he was actually a civilian employee who was working in a mentoring position, who did nothing wrong. He didn't. It wasn't
He's retired.
an attack on anyone. He's retired.
Yep.
Uh, it's asinine. It's just absolutely asinine that
He
it,
was
it
guilty of
and to some
wrongdoing.
degree,
Yes,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's deeper than that, though, Skip. No, no, I don't disagree with you, but I actually think it's deeper than that. It's it's a fundamental sea change in glaring transparency for. It's not just being guilty of wrongthink. It's being guilty of having any sense of humor,
Hmm.
which it goes so which is why I say it's deeper, because it, you can't be funny without truth.
That
You
is
there's
true.
no you cannot make up a story and have it be funny if there isn't some basis in reality for it. And so you look at all of the successful stand-up comedians, like him or love him, or like him or hate him, really. George Carlin is a perfect example of the kind of guy who he was funny. He was just funny. But why? Because he told the truth.
Hmm.
and so it goes beyond wrongthink. They can handle you if you don't quite agree with them, but if you express anything that is funny but true because it has to be funny, you're now dangerous, and so you're an enemy. They could deal with wrongthink. They cannot deal with an enemy.
Yeah.
And there's a huge, like I said, there's just, to me, it's vastly different.
You know, I watch a lot of comedians. Um, there's only one comedian out there who's doing an
I wish you'd
Andy.
learn something from them.
It doesn't rub off. Um, there's only one out there doing any type of Andy Kaufman really type of humor, and that's Sam Hyde. And I'll tell you, like, there is no one that the left hates more than Sam Hyde because he continually just mocks them, and he does it in a way that, like, when you're sitting there watching, you it's either is he mocking us, or it's, oh my god, it's so absurd that I can't believe that he's doing this, and they just cannot stand to be mocked at all. Um, then the other one, who's kind of more Carlin-esque, I would say, is Jim Brewer. You know, Jim Brewer is a dad, and he's lived in New Jersey his whole life, and he's blue collar, and he has, you know, with the whole like, he was a guy, very middle of the road guy, and he is now so anti. Just, he just points at the absurdity of it all, and that's yeah, the best comedians tell the truth, and the funniest jokes have the most truth in it.
Well, I wouldn't just necessarily disagree. I haven't listened to those two guys, but I mean, um, you look at Robbie Bernstein. You know, I don't know if you ever listened to him, but Robbie's the same way. His stand up is the same way. So is Dave Smith, ironically, who is, um, you know,
I love Dave.
strangely enough, Dave is, on the cusp of probably being the nominee for the Libertarian Party. Oh, we got a Carlin clip. But Smith is probably on the cusp of being the nominee for president of the Libertarian Party, and the thing is it's he's not going to get it because he's a funny guy. He's going to get it because he's truthful,
Mhm.
and that's what makes him funny when he does his stand up. Is he says everything that everyone else is thinking, and he says it in a way where, like, how do you pick on him? He's a Jew,
Yeah.
you know, and he says that frequently. He goes, "Hot." He alludes to it, his Jewish heritage, and it's just like, go ahead, call me, go ahead, because it's like, what do you do? And and that's just he's dangerous to them, and it's the same thing with this retired general. He was just funny. It would have made anybody laugh in any other situation,
Yeah.
but nope. You're an enemy. You're an enemy, and you will be marked, which goes to the rest of our stories. But Juan, go ahead and give us some of that wonderful Carlin.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
That was a great fade, Juan. It was a great fade. So But I mean, he wasn't even trying to be funny there.
Yeah.
But people were laughing because it well beats crying, but it it's true. It's just fundamentally and foundationally true. Everything he said was true, and it's funny because we all know it's true, and we also, for the most part, realize that outside of a handful of us, there aren't a lot of people who are even prepared to do it,
Yeah.
to speak out, and that's exactly why they went for that general. He's an enemy.
Yeah.
He's an enemy. It's not wrong think. It's just you're an enemy. Juan, go ahead and bring up the one that we were referring to. This, we don't even need to get into it too deep. Army cuts off more than 60,000 unvaccinated Guard and Reserve soldiers from paying benefits.
This is going to backfire.
60,000.
Yep. I'm telling you, this is going to backfire
Well, what
on
do
the
you?
DoD. Backfire bad. Because it's not just pay.
But
It's
how do
also
you figure?
benefits. Because
Right, but how
you
do you figure?
because it's benefits. And when I say benefits, I mean this means they're not going to be paying. For instance, if you're a reservist on orders and your wife is pregnant, they're not going to pay for uh, the birth of the child. They're going to make it incredibly hard, and all because of a decision to take a vaccine that is not FDA approved. It hasn't been studied for years. It hasn't been, peer tested, all that stuff. So with a lot of these decisions, as it comes to the vaccine, as we were just talking on Council of Colonels, this is going to backfire because this has already played out once before. You can't force experimental stuff onto people. So this, I think, eventually, if enough people sue, they'll get all those pay and benefits back and then some. And the DoD's just going to have to eat it. It'll take years.
Well, it, you know what I'd like for him to do is, oh, you're cutting us off from paying benefits. We're not showing up anymore. We're not coming to drill. I mean, because they still have monthly drills. They're still going to be um, expected to do things, and so they're cutting them off. So ostensibly, you're telling us we don't have to show up, so we're not coming.
Here's what I would do.
Which is
I
why
would
they
still show
haven't.
up and be like, no, I am medically unprepared to train. So I'm here to drill, but medically I can't do anything because you have tried to put an experiment on me.
Well, I guess I get your point, but I because I know that was what they want to do is they want to force them out. But imagine 60,000 people. It's like the Mayo Clinic across the totality of all their facilities here in the United States, mandate in place, uh, and then ended up firing over 7,000 people.
Yeah.
7,000 when you talk about, the military is not a big deal, but when you think about the detrimental effect that has on something, these guys all have jobs.
Yep.
They're
And
guard and reserve people, and they all have jobs.
all these
What's it
people,
really going to hurt them to not have that? The only people it ends up hurting is the military.
yep, all these people who've lost stuff because of not wanting to take the vaccine, as long as they keep fighting, they're eventually going to win. It's going to work its way through the court system, and they will be victorious. Like I said, this is all played out before. There's tons of precedent on it. So as long as they don't give up or die, kind of like how I had a veteran tell me about the VA. You'll get your benefits if you don't give up or die. So keep fighting, and that's what I would say to all those people: keep fighting because you will eventually be victorious.
Well, I hope so, and I think this ties into the other story as well. Is we've got
Mm-hmm.
these, so like active duty people are being forced out. Biden wanted them forced out
Yeah,
on dishonorable discharges,
yeah,
which can affect you for gun ownership and all sorts of things. Can work as a flag against you for gun ownership and yada yada yada. Um, but the reserves and guard individuals, not only are they running into a wall with the military, they're now running into a wall with employers. Juan, if you can bring that up, if Mike got that one over to you. He's been pretty resourceful with all the time he's taken off lately. So if you guys aren't aware that there are, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, and the good thing about this is, for those who weren't paying attention as the court wrapped up its thing, the Supreme Court has already fired a shot across the bow with this one, with a case out of Texas, where Texas fired a individual who had a disability from a deployment, and they came back and they didn't want to give them their job back, and that individual sued. Texas tried to claim sovereignty, but that was denied by the court. So that lawsuit is going to go forward, and I think you're going to see more and more of these lawsuits.
Yeah, I would hope. I'm sorry, what did Juan flash? I missed it.
It was, which one do we want? And this is the one as troops face mounting demands. That's the story.
Yeah, troops face demands about they're losing out on promotions and job placement because they're in the reserves and in the guard, and that's always kind of been one of those protections that as troops face mounting demands to serve in crisis, civilian employers are firing them.
Yeah, which is a violation of the Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act of 1994, USERRA.
It's the headline is a little, I don't want to say misleading, but it's meant to grab your attention, because what's really happening is a lot of troops are, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine, reservists, and Guard and whatnot. They're being told, like, you're a great employee, but we can't put you in this position of leadership, of management, when you're gone so much. You can't be here on, 1 week in the month when we might need you. And on top of that, we also can't afford to have, you gone for 2 weeks without having to, have you take vacation to do that, and on and on and on. And so you're seeing this press from the military, from the feds, to put more and more demands on these individuals to, get them to comply with everything that they want them to do. Well, at the same time, they're losing ground in the civilian world at a time when nobody can afford to not be getting promotions, not being, put in a more choice position. And so the assault on the troop, has come to such a point now where people are actually now coming up to me and saying, you've been telling people to tell their kids to not enlist. I can understand why now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there have been, there were people that enlisted before the vax mandates went into place, and they didn't even make it, barely out of basic and boot. They were, oh, sorry, we're kicking you out. Or, we're going to put enough pressure on you that you asked to be separated.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of pressure on these poor young folk. And I say young because most of them are far younger than me, even the ones that have retired at this point. So.
Yeah, the case out of Texas was.
Which one do you want to cover next?
Texas, and that was a USERRA lawsuit as well. So, yeah, if you keep fighting and you don't give up, you're gonna eventually see some success.
Right. So, which one do you want to tackle next? Because all of my stories have been just uplifting and very.
Juan has a sign.
Juan says I look like a baby today. You look like a baby today, TC.
If you go on a
always rant, somebody's baby, Juan.
If you go on a rant, it's gonna feel so weird. Feel like a baby yelling at me. The only other story we had was on the naval captain. which is
Oh yeah.
this one didn't have a whole lot to it.
But that's been the way the Navy's been handling things
Yeah, this
lately.
they fired him for lack of trust.
We're just firing you.
Yeah,
Right. Like, are you kidding me? Can we fire the president, please?
but they don't say.
I mean, if it's about a lack of trust and confidence.
Yeah, what caused the lack of trust and confidence? I mean, it could be a very
Right.
legitimate thing. It could be, maybe they
Very
did
well
something
could
that
be.
affected readiness. Maybe they didn't carry out an order correctly, but we don't know, and that's the whole point of this.
Well, and there again, there was a day where there was stability in the military. You knew, like, short of like some very egregious offenses, you didn't have to worry that you were going to be demoted. You didn't have to worry that you were going to lose a job. I mean, the military was that place you could go for job security and promotion. You might have to fight for a promotion, but there again, short of like some severe misconduct, you weren't going to, get demoted. You may not get another promotion, but you weren't going to get demoted. And it's just turned into now being in the military is, as it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And like you said, the title, as we stream this out on our platform, the Veteran Nation platform, as well as the platforms here on Right American Media and everywhere else that it's going out, more woke. It's just, it just keeps getting worse. Why? Because the people that are being put in charge,
Yep. And this goes
have gone with that culture.
This is exactly when I said, this goes back to 2009, 2010, when Obama was in, and they shrunk the force during a time of war, shrunk the force, and what that was a way to pressure people who are not towing the right lines, get them out. And what we lost out on was a ton of good leaders who could have stayed in, flourished, done great things, and they've since gone out and gotten into the civilian world, and they've been replaced by people who will toe a company line. But what you're seeing is that it's affected readiness negatively across the board. The service missed recruiting goals by, I believe, 22%, and I think the highest one was the Army.
It was so bad that they lowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, their recruiting goals were so bad, and that instead of putting higher demands on them and saying you need to get out there and start trying harder, which I'm glad they haven't, they told them, you know what, never mind, we're going to actually lower our expectations for the number of people that you put in. Which ultimately, if people don't know this, that also leads to a lower expectation of who can get in.
Yeah.
Which ultimately leads to them taking people that you don't want in the military. Or, because there was a day, and it doesn't happen anymore. People still have this misconception about recruitment that, the local PO will, or the police department or your probation officer or whatever will say, well, this is your last chance. You need to go join the military or you're going to prison. Like, the military's like, we don't want you. Go to prison. That's what. But there was a day where that was common. But it was also when the military was very short-staffed and we were in conflict. I don't know. Does that sound familiar?
Imagine.
I mean, we're short-staffed military and we're in conflict.
Imagine today that, last week you put your daughter onto a bus because she's now going to go into the armed forces and serve. And today you got told, because it came out today, that now transgenders can shower with whomever they want. So now your daughter's going to be forced to shower with someone with a penis. How do you feel?
Well, if you're Joe Biden,
if you're Hunter Biden, you're probably like,
and your daughter has written in a diary that has now been released to the public.
Oh yeah.
But
Pete loves this.
But at the same, who?
Oh, so they hacked Hunter
But
Biden's phone, and they got all the contents, and he had Joe Biden saved in his phone as Pedo Pete. I'm not joking.
I need to see this verified. I don't
4chan.
know what your sources are on this, but they probably believe in a flat Earth. So
No, they've been publishing the pictures. Well, I've got a picture that I saved, but
I can doctor pictures
inappropriate.
too, and I'm no good at that stuff.
No, they've got videos of him arguing with a prostitute over how much crack they have. That's a video.
They also have video of him smoking crack in an isolation tank in treatment. So
You know, he gets away with everything. He's got illegal guns. He's got
buy an illegal gun, and then the Secret Service comes and gets rid of it for you after you throw it in the trash.
he's got
What
babies with
what do you
strippers
got,
out
Juan?
there. He's living the dream.
Hunter Biden is not my dad.
There you go.
I just weighed out the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07 without the bag.
So how long is
2.0.
He couldn't even read it right.
Hey, the crack is a hell of a drug.
The son of the president, ladies and gentlemen.
There have been some presidential family members who have been just embarrassments, but it's like it's almost like he's got a bingo
Amy
card
Carter.
and he's trying to tick them all off.
He's like, I want to top it all. I'm going the opposite direction. I'm going as bad as possible, and I want to be as bad as them, but worse in all the categories. I wonder if there's going to end up being a Hunter Biden treatment facility. They're going to rename the Betty Ford Clinic to the Hunter Biden Crack Clinic. I mean, the Hunter Biden Trap House.
She just asked if I wanted to take a walk. Oh my God. Where are you going?
He sounds like his dad.
My pants fell off. Oh my God, it's cold. Three days clean.
Juan's face during that entire thing.
I think we need to
That's
do
why
a
we can't
Hunter
have Juan
Biden-
in the box.
We should do a Hunter Biden episode with all the stuff coming out and just put it up and just laugh and comment while it's going.
He sounds like his dad.
Oh yeah.
It's eerie. It's eerie how much he sounds like his dad.
People are now asking, do you think Corn Pop was just a guy trying to stop a lifeguard from molesting a kid?
Juan, what else you got for us? I'm not going anywhere with that one. Oh great, another Hunter Biden video. Wonderful. Or is that? Oh, that's just a
I'm
picture.
telling you,
It's just a picture he's putting in.
all this stuff coming out. There's
Did
no
you,
end.
Juan? Did you get? Did you? Oh, he. That's so weird.
I love.
It's just weird.
I love his camera work. He always keeps himself in the frame, in some part.
In the frame, he's really yeah. Imagine that, a Biden in the center of their own frame.
Imagine being a Secret Service agent and being told, "Hey, you're going to work at the White House," and then being told that your assignment is on Hunter's detail. You're like, "Oh my God, it's going to be nothing more than strippers and prostitutes." And
I
illegal
can't imagine
drugs.
that the suicide rate for can't imagine that the suicide rate for Secret Service agents is not going to go up.
Are the Secret Service agents taking him to these drug deals where he's getting his crack? That's what I would like to know.
Once again, that would be a contributing factor to an increase in the suicide rates of Secret Service agents. If you don't understand what I'm saying, they might get Epsteined or Clintoned.
Maybe we should get Buzz Patterson back on the show and talk with him because he worked in the Clinton White House and ask him. So, do you think his Secret Service agents are taking him when he goes to buy his crack? Are they standing in DC ghettos, like out on the street?
And that looks like a Fed. Yeah, it's a Fed. Yeah. But it wouldn't be the first time the Feds went and dealt with crack in the inner cities anywhere.
Oh no, he probably just has to call up the CIA. They're the ones helping deal it.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't even have to go buy it. Maybe they just bring it to him. So,
maybe that's where he got his USS
CIA DoorDash.
It was flown straight in from Nicaragua.
Well, I just got pictures of parachuting bales of crack landing wherever he happens to be. They've got him on GPS lock.
There's a Secret Service.
They've got JDAM tech. They got JDAM technology on. They got JDAM technology on him, and they just got a Secret Service agent that paints him with a laser, and they just.
They're raiding up to the AWACS. The package has been delivered.
We shouldn't be making light of such a horrible problem.
We live in some crazy times.
Do you think podcasters did this during the Lincoln administration?
They always talk about Trump. Who would be the worst in the Trump family? Like, there's no equivalent to this, but you always have that crazy relative. I can't think of anyone in Trump's family. Trump's it.
I mean, once again, don't hate him. I voted for him in his second go around, but who's the crazy guy in Trump's family? Trump.
Yeah.
Trump. Trump. Even Juan's back there going, guy's got a point. Baby face and all.
Which, think about that. That's the least crazy of presidential family members, crazy ones that we've had probably since I would say probably going back to Johnson.
Well, it's such a diverse family. I mean, they all have a different mom, so.
Tiffany, that's the one I have a crush on. Tiffany Trump, if you're watching.
I can almost guarantee you Tiffany Trump is not watching, and if she is, you're not the one that's going to get the message.
I would say Don is more in our demographic.
Juan says it's gonna be him. Honestly, it's me. It's me.
Juan will get a phone call. That's the way this will.
It'll be. It won't be from Tiffany. It might have a Secret Service number. We're gonna need to go ahead and have the contact information for Mike Skipper Arthur.
Well, you can always.
If you
Juan
have
will throw you under the
a
bus in a heart.
piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, 1/4 of $1. We passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Under our forfeiture statutes, you can, the government can, take everything you own, everything from your car to your house, your bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the dollars from the transaction that you just got caught engaging in. They can take everything. If you have
I want to laugh at that, but it actually is so telling that you go back to the beginning of the crack epidemic, and they already had the structure in place for civil asset forfeiture, and they were bragging about using it on people that they criminalized and supplied the criminal element items for, and then bragged that they were going to take everything that you own. It's like we just had up here in Olmsted County, Minnesota. They just released a story today that came about a couple, young 20s, that were. Let's see if I can. Bear with me.
While you're looking that up, I just want everyone to know, I think Hunter Biden looks like the type of guy who would skateboard in the parking lot of his country club.
I think he'd be fun to hang out with.
He's kind of like Andy Dick. I think you'd be fun. You'd have fun with him for like the first 10, 15 minutes, and then when you realize that's all there is about him, then you're like, okay, get this guy out of my house before he breaks everything. Oh, Juan's got something.
He always has something.
But these people are virtue signaling. They're trying to bring people down to raise their own status. And they say it's because, no, we're protecting minorities. Like, they're basically saying minorities haven't got a sense of humor, which is so patronizing. And I get that as well, to what it's like to be outnumbered. In this country, we're still only 5% black, 5% Asian, 5% LGBTQ, you know, tiny numbers. Now, I'm a white, heterosexual multimillionaire, right? There's less than 1% of us. Do I whine? No. I don't mind. I just get on with it. Come on, Rick. Come on, Rick. Just keep I'm like Rosa Parks. Do you know what I mean? I'm like... Except I fought for the right to never have to take a seat on a bus.
Gervais is another one of them.
Yep.
He's just another one. He's just not afraid to say. Yeah. Yeah. So here, our local news is covering a story about a local couple in Olmsted County that was arrested and charged for a 24-year-old man and a 24-year-old late woman. Second degree charge for. They pled guilty to a second-degree charge, and they were initially charged for first-degree drug sale, second-degree drug possession, and illegal possession of a firearm. Now, what made their possession of the firearm illegal was the fact that they had psychedelic mushrooms. Psychedelic mushrooms is what made their... Okay, so in and of itself, having the shotgun wasn't illegal. It was the fact that they had the psychedelic... And they had a lot of psychedelic. We're talking like 3 pounds or 5 pounds or something like that. It was sizable, but what was their crime? What ultimately was their crime? And they're criminalizing them, and they're compounding the criminalization of them by tacking on more charges on top of it, which is really what Mr. Biden see. I'm on a rant, which is what Biden was bragging about over crack. Look what we're going to do to these crack dealers. We're going to and not just dealers. If you even have a tiny little piece for personal use, you're going to prison for 5 years. Like, and right now, his vice president still is part of the fundraiser to spring people, or the organization to spring people out of jail for violent crimes.
Oh, without bail. They're releasing them without bail.
Yeah,
murderers.
To get them out with murders. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, but they're bragging about having that power, except now they're using that power on law-abiding people. I saw a video of a guy here, not, I think it might have been just this last year, but I saw the video a few months ago of a guy who literally was carrying in cash, something like $15,000 or $20,000 in cash with him in a vehicle, transporting it in his vehicle as he was driving back to Georgia. He got stopped in Texas, had to make, help the Texas troopers understand that this was normal for him. So they called his bank, and the bank's like, yeah, they do this all the time. They called his employer. We do this all the time. There's nothing illegal going on. There's no drugs. He got over to Louisiana, got stopped, said, hey, I just got cleared by Texas Department of Public Safety, and they still seize the money.
Yeah, I think
they still seize the money. Red pickup or a red car or some crossover type thing or whatever. Video, yeah. But I mean, just think about that. What was his crime? He had a large amount of money on him, and that's what Biden was bragging about in that video.
Cause, they had suspicion.
Right. And so, and they told him, you didn't do anything wrong, but we're seizing this because it's suspicious. But that's what Biden was bragging about. That's how long that power, this civil asset forfeiture crap has been around, and they don't care who they hurt.
Yep.
So even if you are guilty, they don't care if it's going to hurt your family. They don't care. And make no mistake. And I heard a little bit of this from Council of Colonels. In the one video, the gal was saying, like, the Republicans and Democrats, it's all just one thing. I don't know. Juan's got to have something else funny for us. I'm trying not to go on a babyface rant. I don't want Skipper to be concerned or unsettled. This is why nobody believes I'm as old as I am.
One of the biggest problems that many of us are facing is internet censorship. Millions of people are being purged from the internet for no good reason at all. Our elected officials have been ignoring this major issue for a long time. They think that since the big tech titans are private corporations, that they can do whatever they want, and that if we don't like it, we should start our own thing. That is a totally misguided approach, because these tech titans are richer and more powerful than any company in the history of the world. They operate in every country. They have the power to make or break most businesses, to swing elections, and even start wars. We cannot allow them to separate and divide us any longer. We need to level the playing field. It's time to call these social media companies what they are: public utilities. Public utilities are companies that operate at a monopoly scale because they offer services that we cannot live without. In the same way, you cannot run a business, a nonprofit, or a political campaign without electricity or a telephone. You can't run any of those things without social media in 2022. Social media is the modern-day public square. It is access to the market, and it is the keys to power. Barack Obama got elected because of social media. Donald Trump got elected because of social media. That's why the establishment spent the last 6 years doing everything they can to censor those who question them. Whether it is Russiagate, COVID, Ukraine, or January 6th. They will use any excuse they can to consolidate power and to shut off anyone who opposes them. That's why we need to come together as Americans and put our foot down before it's too late. Enough is enough. The power company can't cut off your power because they don't like your politics. The phone company cannot cut off your telephone because they don't like your politics. So the social media companies should not be able to cancel you because they don't like your politics. They need to be legally classified as public utilities, and we need to pass an Internet Bill of Rights, one that firmly establishes our First Amendment rights into the realm of cyberspace, where we now live most of our lives. This is not North Korea. This is not China. This is the United States of America. And in this country, our right to free speech is not optional. I'm Jerome Davison. I'm running to be your next congressman. I promise to fight tech tyranny every day and to bring freedom back to the internet.
I like a lot of what he said. I disagree with making them public utilities. I don't think that more legislation is the answer, and don't think for a minute, by the way, that they will not come up with a way to cut off your electricity for wrongthink. There's your wrongthink.
Yeah.
I do believe. I mean, because they've already talked about implementing Canada's draconian measures, and I mean, you.
Do we lose TC? Still there? Looks like he's coming back, and then he's like, oh, You there?
There we go. Yeah, my VPN kicked back in and it froze me. For some reason, vMix did not want my VPN working
Because
tonight.
you were trying to say that they should turn them into utilities.
Yeah, there you go. No, so the draconian measures of Canada are now being talked about for dissident voices here in the United States. And there have been people who have lost bank accounts for being dissident voices.
Oh yeah.
There's an individual out there that I think it was $550,000. They just seized it from him. The business did.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was accused.
They cut off people's lines
of
yeah. Because of things that they posted online.
Yep. And so making them public utilities is not going to protect us from their censorship.
I like the idea
what it'll do, there again, a Bill of Rights is interesting on the face, but it's really hard to enforce. But I do agree with what he said that they're private companies. Well, where do you draw the line then? If you walk into a chain grocery store and they have a questionnaire that you must fill out to shop there, and they ask you, are you Christian? And you're like, oh yeah, okay. And they go, oh, sorry, we don't serve Christians here. There's some repercussions for that for them. So I think there's something that could be done, but just the idea of making it public utilities and thinking that somehow that's going to keep them from cutting off your electricity.
I agree with you.
That we are not too far away from the day where they're going to start coming after your utilities, and your dissident voice might get you kicked off of your cell phone provider.
I will say this: I do believe fiber optic cable should be regulated as a utility, and that's where most of us get our internet is through fiber optics. But if you regulate that as a utility, now you could have your pick of internet providers regardless of where you live.
Well, yeah, but there again, cities contract with internet providers, so.
Well, right now they do, but if it's enforced as a utility, then it doesn't matter what company laid that fiber. Everybody has the right to it. So you then can, start your own ISP essentially, and you're using other people's fiber. You have to pay them a fee, and your users have to pay them a fee, but you have a right to that line.
Yeah. As long as you're paying for it. I don't know if I'd say right.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Let's not make the internet a right. No.
But I think there's some. I think there is some things in that video that I agree with him on that I think we should entertain.
Well, was it? Les Juan's got something more miraculous for us. No, he says nothing. He says wrap it up.
Yeah.
So
We've had a good discussion.
wrap
It's
it
been a
up.
good show.
Yeah, it's been. Yeah, I'm off my game this week. So
I do think we have to talk about having a Hunter Biden episode in the future. Just everything Hunter.
anytime you bring it up, it happens. So I thought we were having a comedian on tonight, and thought we were having a comedian on tonight. You said, "Hey, should I bring on my comedian?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." And then you showed up.
Already booked. So.
Hmm.
But I'm still trying to
Gotta think ahead, Skipper.
Anthony Zenhauser. He's really funny.
There again, the bar is low.
Well, do you want to plug anything?
Yeah, you guys just once again, coffee and merchandise. If you haven't ever checked out Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it is growing, and we are going to be releasing the interview with the guys from the USS Liberty over the next few weeks. Skipper and I sat down and did that as a joint project. Once I release it on my platforms, it will be available to go onto Right America Media platforms, wherever Juan wants to put it, as well as the Veteran Nation platforms as well, and also the NRN platforms. It is a phenomenal conversation, and I really want, especially the fans of the Veteran Nation show, to listen, to pay attention, because it's incredibly important. And these guys are 100%. They'll flat out tell you that everything you're being told by the United States government about everything is a lie. And I guarantee you, walking into their experience in Israel during the 7 Days War, not one of them would have ever thought that way. But these guys were awakened. They were red-pilled before we even knew what red-pilling was. Yep. They were red-pilled before we knew what CGI was. You know, they were red-pilled before Keanu Reeves was a thought.
I thought it was so hearing about how they were threatened by an admiral days after being attacked.
Yeah.
That was interesting. So yeah, it's going to be a great interview. I do want to plug another interview. Andrea had me on the decompression chamber last week, so I've tweeted that out. I'll push it out again some more. So check that interview out. That was a lot of fun.
Is that the face on the video that I saw?
Yep, my ugly mug. But
it was funny that my show with where I sat down with Andrea, I just had like a month ago now or so. Somebody just stumbled across it and said, "I didn't even realize that you were on there." And I watched this, and I listened to your entire story because Andrea and I ended up talking in depth about shortly about my military career, but what happened to me over the last couple of years after almost 13 years in law enforcement. And this person was like, when I first heard your story, and they're local to me, and she said, when I first heard your story, you talking about your story, I kind of thought maybe you were just disgruntled and pissed off and taking it out on everybody. And she goes, then I heard you on the decompression chamber with Andrea, and it completely opened my eyes. So Andrea, if you're watching, you're getting around without even me having to push you. So
she's a great person. So I have no doubt she will be.
I still think we need to find a way to work her in on NRN.
Oh, definitely.
And
on RAM.
But more importantly on RAM. I think she's a really good for RAM.
Mm-hmm. I love watching Ash Digital.
And she's funny. I haven't experienced that yet.
It's Louis J. Gomez, the comedian. He calls her in when he wants to, go back and forth with her a little bit, because he's a gym rat just like her. But
I'll have to look for that. So
we'll go ahead.
Yeah, that's.
I want everyone to check us out on.
Thanks,
Instagram,
Juan.
Vet Nation Show. I'm on Twitter. TC's on Twitter. He's at Robe Regiment. I am at Vet Nation Host. I still also own at Vet Nation Show there, but right now I can't access it as my appeal is still pending. But beyond
So
that,
now I gotta find you on another one.
I've already followed you, and you're following me. This was the
Oh, all
shingles
right.
mount. Yeah, it's been on
Oh,
appeal for a month now.
oh,
So
okay. I'm like,
because I said
I can't.
cry more, LOL, that was considered harassing, and it's under appeal.
I'm not. Juan, just get us out of here.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being worth serving.